And welcome, woo! You know how I act. Welcome to the General Government Committee meeting, or better known as Community Development, Housing, and General Government. Today we have 2 consent items. We have 6 general agenda items. 3 are for information and review, and the other 3 are for possible action. I would like to, before we start the meeting, I'd like to refer or defer to our Mayor, Alan Joyce, to welcome our sister city. They're not here yet? Okay, well, we will insert whenever they come in. Thank you, Mayor. On the consent agenda items, we have, clerk, would you please call the roll for community development, please?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Here.
Councilmember Joyner,
Present.
and Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Welcome, committee. Welcome, everyone. We have the consent agenda item. We have 2 in this particular, no more than our council. If there's no discussion or debate, we can approve with general consensus. Are there any of the 2 items that need to be pulled by the committee or council? May I have a motion, please? Oh,
For approval.
I'm sorry, I'm losing it already. I have a first. May I have a second?
Second.
Is it moved and properly seconded of the 2 consent items? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign, say no. Would the clerk please read the first general agenda item?
Item G1, Youth Advisory Board Annual Report.
Good afternoon, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and committee members.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ava Banner, and I am the chair of the Winston-Salem Youth Advisory Council, which serves as a bridge between our community, our youth, and our government. Today, we are going to be presenting our annual report regarding the events that we have been engaged in throughout the year. To begin, I'd like to introduce Jada Taylor, our council's vice chair.
I know you.
Well, again, good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Temp, and members of the committee. My name is Jada Taylor, as I said before, and I'm the vice chair of YAC, and I am completing my 3rd year on the council. I'm excited to share some of the incredible opportunities that the State Youth Council has provided for us. From powerful leadership events to major statewide responsibilities, SYC continues to be a platform where students can grow, lead, and make a real impact. Today, I'll be talking about 3 key SYC conferences and are hosting the 2024-2025 Spring Convention here in Winston-Salem. Number 1 is the Leadership Conference, which gathered executive board members of each youth council to learn leadership skills and share ideas. It's where the student leaders connect with peers from across the state and get inspired by speakers who challenge us to lead with passion and purpose. Number 2 is the Mini Grant Conference, which turns ideas into action. This program gives youth an opportunity to develop programs, write grant proposals, screen grants submitted by youth groups, and implement defined program objectives. With an annual appropriation from the North Carolina General Assembly, the Youth Advisory Council is able to award grants averaging from $100 to $500 for a wide range of youth-directed projects. It's an amazing way to take initiative and make a difference. Number 3, the Team Building Conference, which is focused on collaboration. Through engaging activities and problem-solving challenges, teams grow stronger, improve communication, and return to their schools ready to lead more effectively. This teaches us cooperation, communication, and teamwork. The dynamics of group process are modeled through challenge course activities to create educational, motivating experiences with real impact. Now, on to something bigger. Winston-Salem is proud to be the host of the 2024-2025 SYC Spring Convention. Hosting this convention is both an honor and a huge opportunity. We were able to welcome youth leaders from all over North Carolina, creating a space where all state youth councils could assemble to wrap up the various services and activities they have done throughout the year, which is yearly project presentations, SYC dinner and awards, and elections, which we have the honor of hosting the new vice president for 2025-2026, our very own Veda Senko, won that election. Really cool. And our goal was to make this event memorable and impactful with workshops, networking, and fun experiences that reflect the best of what SYC and Winston-Salem have to offer. Thank you all for your time, and I can't wait to see what we accomplish next year. Now, I'm going to hand it off to Ava.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jada. So while YAC attended the State Youth Council conferences, we also participated in 2 National League of Cities conferences, the City Summit in Tampa Bay, Florida, and the Congressional Cities Conference in Washington, D.C. At both conferences, we were involved into a multitude of workshops, from debates with discourse, crisis management, fostering dialogue, and in DC specifically, YAC took part in a 5-component session with a focus around how to identify and tackle concerns within our community with tangible solutions. And with these conferences, they are planned by the Youth Education and Families Council representatives, which are made up of 4 to 5 youth selected from across the states. As a council representative myself, undertaking the responsibilities associated with the conferences and the council has allowed me to not only serve as a voice for the youth of the U.S., but also as a conduit of information for our council and how we can better serve the youth of Winston-Salem. But the conferences are not only planned by just the Youth Education and Families representatives, since we receive an enormous amount of support from the Youth Delegate Planning Committee, in which I will now hand it over to our very own Veda Senka to discuss her experience being on that planning committee.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Temp, and committee members. My name is Veda, and I'm completing my first year on the Youth Advisory Council. While we went to the Congressional Cities Conference in DC, I was a part of the Youth Delegate Planning Committee who helped the Youth Education and Families Council with planning workshops and really putting together the activities. And doing this allowed me to better learn how I can serve my youth council better and the youth in our city better. And it also allowed me to learn how to be better in community service. And as YAC, that's a big thing that we do, and this year we got to volunteer at International Village, which really allowed us to immerse ourselves in the culture and learning about all the diverse population that Winston-Salem has, and also being ushers at the Human Relationships Banquet and seeing all the wonderful youth who are being leaders in their school. And now I'm going to hand it off back to Jada.
All right, well, I have the honor of talking about our community service involvement. So this year, we focused on bringing awareness to North Carolina adoption statistics. We used the Winston-Salem Ambassadors Holiday Parade as a platform for a walk for the homeless children. Also, we collected clothing for survivors of Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina and partnered with other youth councils to collect new and slightly worn clothing. Ava?
Awesome. And so we are a lot of business, but we also can be a lot of fun. And so as an end of year celebration annually, YAC likes to develop a theme and paint that theme on our youth expression wall in June. Last June, our theme was empowering collaboration, and this year our theme is going to be unity. With the Youth Expression Wall, we always like to encourage anyone to come out and even paint if they'd like, to come and support YAC, but also see how this wall is able to empower the youth across Winston-Salem. And so with that being said, before we conclude our presentation, my council and I would just like to offer our thank yous to the city for supporting our endeavors and continuing to do so. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions or comments. Awesome. And that would conclude our presentation. Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize.
Thank you. Great presentation. The wall, where is it?
Downtown.
The direct location would be.
It's on the west, it's the western end of the Winston Square Park.
Oh,
Downtown.
oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm down the steps? Yes.
If it has not been painted over, then you would see a
Beautiful.
bunch of hands from last year.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes, I'd like Erica Simon, if you can add to their report on how wonderful our young people are becoming voices on the national stage.
Ms. Simon.
Good afternoon, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and the rest of the city council members. I just wanted to let you know that, yes, we also had a young lady, Miss Ava Banner, represented us in NLC for the Youth Education and Families Council. We did have another young lady to apply. We were waiting to hear from that. But in the meantime, I got word that Ms. Veda Sanka was one of 15 students chosen to get a $750 grant as a part of NLC from a company called Unleash. And they were the organization that ran our youth workshops this year at NLC. So we are certainly very proud of her. We are very proud of all of our students that are on YAC, but we just wanted to give you that little tidbit of information so that we can celebrate them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The one thing I can say about this city council, since I've been on it for a while, is that we are very proactive about getting our youth involved in government process. You know, we like to sometimes blame our young people for not knowing certain things or having even the institutional knowledge that old people like me have. But there was somewhere along my life that somebody allowed me, yes, to have a platform, to be engaged, to be energized, to be passionate, as well as to learn my community and my country and my state. So again, I thank the staff, Human Relations, and all of you that are involved. I thank my young people who are involved, and I'd like to also put a plug, thank you, into Councilmember Taylor and Councilmember Montgomery, who helped to bring YAC and the college DIMS to fruition, to the forefront with the city. I'd like to thank Councilmember Scipio for her advocacy and lobbying of resources to help support our youth. But again, trust me, we believe in you because you are the future of this city, and we hope that we'll be able to retain you here to lead in this capacity or any other capacity that you so desire. Thank you so much.
Ms. Adams, I'm Catherine Burrows, former professor of English, and I just want...
Would you introduce yourself? She came up to me before the meeting started. And what's your address as well?
I was very impressed with the student presentation myself, and I really admire the speech abilities of this group. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
I grew up in Winston-Salem.
All right, now, and you still here too? Okay, we'll take that. We can also give a shout out to our educators and the parents and families of these young people who are assisting and pouring into them again to be the best that you can be in your life, whatever that is that you may choose to be. Thank you so much. City Clerk, would you please call the next agenda item?
Item G2, 2024-2025 College Advisory Board Annual Project.
Welcome, welcome. I know you too.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, Council. My name is Jacob Taylor, and I am the chair of College Advisory Board, and I'm here with Nat Pardo, who's also a member of College Advisory Board. And today we're here to speak to you about harm reduction, what it is, and why it matters.
All right.
And we're here partnered with Twin City Harm Reduction too, so. All right.
You have the clicker right there.
Thank
so
you.
You can go to that.
Appreciate it. So this here is our table of contents, and in our table of contents covers the 4 core pillars of harm reduction. We have number 1, healthcare access and quality. 2, neighborhood and built environment. 3, economic stability. And last but not least, 4, social and community context. Healthcare access and quality. Winston-Salem's Health Equity Report shows that people with health insurance are more likely to access quality care, yet racial and economic disparities limit coverage for many Black and minority residents. White residents in metro areas are more likely to be insured, leading to better health outcomes, while communities of color face systemic barriers to consistent preventative care. Black neighborhoods also face limited access to affordable, healthy foods, increasing chronic health risk and compounding the need for regular medical attention. These overlapping issues, lack of insurance, racial inequity, and poor food access, highlights the need for harm reduction strategies that address healthcare access holistically as opposed to in isolation. Neighborhood and built environment. So for neighborhood and built environment, there's 6 pillars, and I'll cover them. Feel free to look at the subsections as I read them. So there's access to safe and supportive spaces, availability of healthcare and harm reduction services, housing stability and quality, transportation and infrastructure, environmental safety and crime prevention, and again, last but not least, access to nutritious food and clean water. And now Nanu will cover the economic stability.
Hi there, everyone. So I'll be talking about economic stability. So the definition of economic stability is an individual's ability to consistently meet basic financial needs, such as housing, food, healthcare, and employment. In the context of harm reduction, economic stability plays a crucial role in preventing and mitigating substance use disorders. Many individuals that face economic hardships are more likely to experience higher stress levels, housing instability, and limited access to healthcare. Economic stability also directly influences harm reduction by addressing the root causes of substance use and providing individuals with resources to achieve financial independence. The solution to this is to integrate harm reduction services with job training, housing, food assistance, and mental health support. So let's get some data. Opioid-related overdose rates in Forsyth County have increased in recent years, with emergency department visits rising. High poverty areas in Winston-Salem report higher rates of substance use and limited access to harm reduction services. Economic instability, such as low wages and lack of affordable housing, contributes to higher rates of addiction and relapse. The Twin City Harm Reduction Collective provides essential services to mitigate these issues, but more importantly, it also needs help investing in economic support programs in need. This is a little snapshot taken of Unseen Patterns, which is research funded by Forsyth County that focuses on the opioid crisis. We have some continued data here, which you are more than welcome to sift through. Social and community context. Definition: the environment where people spend their lives and the relationships made with said environments. According to SAMHSA, formulating ways to connect with those who use drugs can prevent overdose and positively influence sectors of well-being. The most important thing about harm reduction is meeting people where they're at, not leading with judgment, but leading with care and with love, and coming from a place of support. Continued, this is what's going on in North Carolina right now. So we have SSBs, which is syringe exchange programs. We have job training and workforce development, community grants, housing assistance. We have the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and we actually have FROST right here in Forsyth County as Forsyth Regional Opioid and Substance Use Team. Right here in Winston-Salem, we have Green Tree, Coalition of Drug Abuse Prevention, Twin City Harm Reduction Collective, FROST, once again, and Wake Forest University. So this is the call to action. The most important things are healthcare access and quality, improving access to preventative care in underserved communities, in the neighborhood and built environment, installing more Narcan and prescription drop boxes in parks and public areas, and also using local data to target vulnerable neighborhoods for outreach and support. For economic stability, we have integrating harm reduction services with job training and housing assistance, as well as supporting investment in programs that address poverty-related addiction risks. Lastly, for social and community contexts, promote community-based harm reduction that meets people where they are, strengthen local partnerships with groups like NCHRC and FROST, and collaborate with schools and universities to expand harm reduction education. We actually got a statement here from Twin City Harm Reduction Collective's executive director, and it states, as Winston-Salem, Forsyth County's only harm reduction program, we strive to not only connect with local individuals and organizations, but also to educate them on harm reduction practices and overdose response and reversal, as we believe this is a very important part of combating overdose deaths in our community. This is why we were pleased to host a group of students from the College Advisory Board, CAB, who volunteered their time to make naloxone kits for our program. The students learned about harm reduction and our program's operations and community impact while packaging a couple hundred life-saving kits for us to distribute. We are grateful for the conversations and connections that this collaboration provided and hope to have the opportunity to host students from CAB again in the future. And here are a few photographs of us meeting with Twin City and also one of their first syringe disposal boxes that are in our community. Is there any questions or anything you'd like to mention?
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the council or committee?
Well, we thank you for your,
We can't let you just come in and do such a great job presenting any of you. Again, particularly the future, we have to acknowledge that your presence, you are here, and that you want to be heard, and we want you to be heard. And we just want to thank you all again for your participation in these programs. And we know how hard it is to get you to buy into these types of things. But even if it's just a few of you, it warms our heart, and we appreciate it that you are trying to be collectively and collaboratively working with not just your generation, but all of Winston-Salem community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next, for what we've been waiting for, I will be deferring to our Mayor, Alan Joynes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. We're delighted to have a group of visitors with us today who've been here all day and will be here a couple more days from Moldova, which is, of course, a country in Eastern Europe there, and also part of our sister city network. We are sister cities with Inyan city there, and we have a city council member with us from there, Mr. Ian Tito. Correct? Thank you for being with us. And we're also pleased to have Lydia Sandulak, who is also an interpreter and a member of the city council there. And we're very fortunate to have the mayor of another city, Stransini City, and Mayor Valentina Cassian is with us today. So thank you for being with us there. Had a chance to tour the city today, saw some of our water treatment facilities, saw some other reports and things going on in our city. A bunch of us had lunch with them today, so we had a chance to chat. So welcome again, and we're here in the General Government Committee chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Adams and other members of the council here. So we've got a variety of items to be discussed here today.
Thank you very much for having us. It was a delight to be here for the whole day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And what we're learning, or what I've learned today, Councilmember Joyner, Councilmember Scipio, we were with lunch with them, was the issues that local government officials face are the same issues all over the world. It's universal. And to be able to be a host for them today, our city, again, as the mayor has said, we have 5 sister cities, and we have 3 that are very active and 2 that we will be working on in the future that used to be active. But again, we welcome you on behalf of the city of Winston-Salem and the General Government Committee. I am impressed and inspired by you being here this week. Thank you so much. I'm gonna turn this down. City Clerk, would you please call the next item, please?
Item G3, adoption of a resolution to elect the 2025 inductees for the Winston-Salem Arts, Culture, and Entertainment Memorial Walk of Fame.
Good afternoon, Mayor Joynes, Chair Adams, members of City Council. The item before you today is a resolution to recommend the election of 4 individuals to the City of Winston-Salem Arts, Culture, and Entertainment Memorial Walk of Fame. Just very briefly, some background. The Walk of Fame was created in November of 2015 at the vision of Mayor Pro Tempore Adams to recognize deceased city residents who made significant contributions to the arts and entertainment industry. The actual Walk of Fame is located on the sidewalk on Cherry Street next to the Benton Convention Center. And each year, the selection is limited to 5 nominations. So just in terms of the process, we open up the applications in January, receive those, and then a diverse panel of citizens who represent various disciplines of the arts review those nominations and then make a recommendation to this committee, the General Government Committee, who then will make a recommendation to the City Council for final approval. The annual budget for the Walk of Fame is $20,000, mainly to purchase the medallions and to have them installed, and that budget is paid for out of our Oxby tax fund. In terms of the criteria for someone to be nominated, the nominee has to be deceased, has to have been a resident of Winston-Salem for at least 5 years, made a significant contribution to the arts and entertainment industry in the various disciplines that you see there, exhibited sustained excellence in his or her field for at least 5 years, and then also made distinguished contributions to the community or provided civic-oriented participation. So we received 7 nominations earlier this year. William Benton, Joshua Brookshire, Julian Burrows, James Davis Jr., James Thackeray Diggs, Margaret Mueller, and Harold Tedford. The review committee did review all 7 applications. And what you have before you today is the slate of recommended nominees. William Benton, who is in the area of arts and philanthropy. And I'll give you a brief little background on each one of these. Julian Burrows in the area of radio, James Diggs Jr. in visual arts, and Margaret Mueller in music. So William Benton is well known as a great advocate of the arts in Winston-Salem. He's a businessman and a real estate developer. He, as you can see there, the various organizations that he supported over the course of his life there, the Arts Council, the Sawtooth School of Visual Design, Piedmont Craftsman. So that was the standout quality there for his nomination. He also received the Lifetime Achievement in Philanthropy Award from the Triad Chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals. So that's William Benton. Julian Carr Burrows, a faculty member at Wake Forest University. He was the WFDD faculty advisor, the station manager, and announcer, often known as the radio voice of Wake Forest. He actually started as the station manager for WFDD when he was a senior at Wake Forest at the old campus. But he actually secured the FM broadcast license for WFDD. He, as you can see, they're partnered with Friends of Fine Broadcasting that resulted in donations to the station. And he also acquired the first NPR charter membership in North Carolina in 1971. And he also was a professor of speech communication at Wake Forest. I don't believe I ever had him for a class, so that's probably why my public speaking isn't very good. Next nominee is James Thackeray Diggs Jr., renowned for his visual artwork in Cubism, Surrealism, and Expressionism. He was an art professor, but also the chairman of the Winston-Salem State University Art Department. He also designed the official Winston-Salem State University seal. He was a founding member of both the Associated Artists of Winston-Salem and North Carolina, co-established SECA, the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art. And Diggs Gallery on the campus was created in honor of him in 1990. As it's noted there, the gallery is a major cultural center at Winston-Salem State and offers one of the largest exhibition spaces dedicated to the arts of Africa and the African diaspora in North Carolina. And then finally, we have Margaret Snodgrass Mueller in the area of music, Professor Emeritus of Organ and Theory at Salem College, served in that role from 1958 to 1995. established the Summer Organ Academy at Salem College in 1975, was a longtime piano teacher at the Salem Community Music School, an organist at St. Paul's Episcopal Church from 1963 to 2001, performed around the U.S. and the world, and Ms. Mueller and her husband helped lead the campaign for the 2010 restoration of the Flynn Trop organ at Salem College. And just as a note, her husband, John, was elected to the Walk of Fame back in 2020. So that is the slate of nominees before you that ultimately the full council will consider. They joined 30 previous inductees to the Walk of Fame. In terms of next steps, if elected, then there will be a special ceremony next July 2026, prior to the start of the International Black Theater Festival. That's become kind of our routine there, to induct 2 classes right before the theater festival. And right before I wrap up, I did want to very quickly recognize the members of the evaluation panel who did review all of the nominees. They included Deirdre Anderson with Forsyth Technical Community College, Eureka Felipe with the Arts Council, Whitney Harness with Delta Arts Center, Billy Rich, who is retired, former city employee, Corliss Sellers with the 40 Plus Stage Company, Marjorie Silber, who's also retired, and Terry Taylor with Old Salem Museum and Gardens. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Could I get a motion on the floor, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Hall and Councilmember Burke. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or discussion about our nominees? Great.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I'm one of Julian Burroughs' 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how much it moves our family.
And could you give us your name?
I'm Catherine Burroughs again. And this would be really something for him to realize. I want to also thank Ken Johnson, a former station manager, who put together the nomination. And my father, with all the hard days when his radio station was interfering with Channel 8 and had to go out himself fixing it, would never believe that this moment has happened. So I just wanted to thank you very much.
You're so welcome. I was fortunate enough to be an art student of Dr. Diggs at Winston-Salem State University during the summers when I would come home from school, because I worked in the rentals manufacturing at night. So during the daytime, I would go to Winston-Salem State and pick up 6 hours. And by the time I got to Morgan my senior year, I graduated in December the year before, but I didn't tell my parents that I had another semester that was free, because I knew they'd make me come home. So yeah, I didn't lie, I just didn't tell them the truth, that I had already graduated. But I want to thank Dr. Diggs again and Winston-Salem State University for allowing me that opportunity as a poor little kid, first graduate in a family, to learn from him. But Dr. Diggs, artistic genius, that's what he was. And again, that's why the university commemorated his memory with the Diggs Gallery. Thank you all so much. Mr. Rao, we all look forward to next year when we do the ceremony before the International Theater Festival. Next item, please, on the agenda.
Item G4, information pertaining to accrual rates for city employees.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sharon Boyda, Assistant City Manager. Wanted to provide an update on the presentation I gave at the last month General Government Committee meeting about accrual rates for city employees. So I'll recap some of what we talked about last week or last month. We said at the last meeting that we would come back with information. We were also going to be looking into vacation accrual rates for all city employees. So I'll provide that update, and then Kind of an informational item, we briefly talked about the expansion of the language incentive program at the last meeting. That is not formally adopted in our council adopted personnel resolution, but brought it up last month and wanted to give an update on that. So quick update on where we left things last month. So we had a recommendation that the accrual rates for fire department employees that work a 56-hour schedule be adjusted to be on par with that accrual rate or ratio of other city employees. So the fire employees that work 56-hour schedules, that's your firefighters, engineers, captains, battalion chiefs, they work 40% more hours per week than kind of your average city employee, other kind of in an office setting or getting paid on a 40-hour work week. I shouldn't say office settings. Our police officers, we have utility folks that work alternate schedules, but they're paid on a 40-hour work week. So since those fire employees work 40% more hours, our recommendation was that they accrue 40% more time off. As a 40-hour employee, I accrue rate at the time of 8 hours per month. So 40% more than that is 11.2 hours per month. So if you hear this 11.2 hours, that's how we arrived at that amount. And then the last presentation had a lot of kind of data and information showing how those sick and vacation accrual rates compare to other city employees as well as other comparable fire departments across North Carolina. And our fire department's accrual rates were more than double that rate earned by other city employees and were roughly double that of other organizations. Only Charlotte had a vacation accrual rate higher than ours. So God, I cannot talk today. To provide a little more context, and we know most employees are not taking off all the time that they earn in a year. But if a fire employee, again, that was on that 56-hour schedule, if they took off all the time that they currently earn in a year, sick, vacation, and holiday, whether you're a first-year employee or a tenured employee at 20 plus years, the difference, you'll see the difference, that second row, vacation. If you're a 20-year employee, you're earning more vacation time off than a first-year employee. If a fire employee was to take all of their eligible time, that would range from about 30% to 41% of their annual hours. Those same kind of employee categories of a new employee versus a 20-year employee, if those employees also took off all the time that they accrue in a year, that would be about 14% to 19% of their annual hours. So it shows another kind of example of that disparity in the accrual rates. One thing that I want to note for you all that has been happening since the last meeting, I've had a number of meetings with fire employees. So I met with almost all the battalion chiefs. There were 2 that were not present at that meeting. City Manager Pate and I met with members of the association, and then I held kind of office hour listening sessions, if you will, that were open to all fire employees, that the chief sent those dates out in his weekly email to all fire department employees, and I held 3 of those listening sessions. So I've gathered a lot of information and feedback through those discussions. One of the items that came up on a frequent basis was recognizing the nature of their shifts versus a 40-hour employee shift, and the amount of time that it would take a 56-hour fire employee to recoup, if you will, when they take off a 24-hour shift. So there's a lot of math on this slide, but I'll kind of walk through the comparison of a 40-hour employee, that 56-hour fire employee currently, based on their current accrual rate, and then the proposed adjusted accrual rate. So you can see that first row is just the number of hours worked annually, 2,080 versus 2,912. That works out to 12 divided by 12 months per year. It's either 173 hours per month for a 40-hour employee or just under 243 hours per month for a 56-hour. So then the number of sick leave hours accrued each month. So 40-hour accrues 8 hours. Under the current accrual rates, fire would accrue 24 hours of sick leave per month. The proposal is 11.2. So then the fourth row down, the number of months of sick leave accruals needed to use 24 hours. So just the simple math, if you need to use 24 hours, but it would take 3 months for a 40-hour employee to make that up. That's that 24 hours divided by the sick leave hours accrued per month. Under the current scenario, fire recoups that in 1 month. Under the proposal, it would take them just over 2 months to accrue that 24 hours of sick time. So recognize that is double what their current accrual rate is. But then if you look at the number of hours on an annual basis that any city employee has to work to recoup 24 hours of sick time usage, is 520 hours for a 40-hour. You can see it's about half that under the current accrual rate for fire. But under the proposal, they would also work 520 hours to earn back 24 hours of sick time. So then if you kind of flip that and look at the number of months, so it goes back to that number of months to recoup, where for a 40-hour employee, it takes 3 months of work to recoup that 24 hours that you take off. Under the proposal, even though fire would be working the same number of hours, 520, they would earn that time back in 2 months versus 3 months. I know that's a lot of numbers. Any questions on that before I move on? Yes.
What's the number for 1 day? For a 40-hour employee?
For
3
one,
days, what's the same, is it the same percentage?
I will have to, we focused on 24 hours because that was the feedback that I received from them. I have to calculate that out. So that was just the recap on kind of the sick leave accruals that we talked about last time. We said at the last meeting that we would come back. We wanted to look at those citywide vacation benefits, again, for all city employees. We have different tiers of vacation accruals based on how long you've been at the city. So all of our personnel policies, our employee handbook, the personnel resolution is based on the number of vacation days per year. So you can see in that chart, the number of vacation days you earn each year increases with your tenure with the city. Just to summarize our benefits, so we have a maximum vacation accrual of 30 days, which is 240 hours for a 40-hour employee. That's currently 720 hours for your fire employee, and that's just that 30 days times 24. We have the ability to cash out up to 80 hours of vacation each year, so employees can elect to have up to 80 hours is 2 weeks, 112 hours for fire. You can have that cashed out each year to draw down your vacation balance if you're getting close to that cap. And then once you hit that 240 cap or 720 hours for fire, on January 1 of every year, any excess accruals roll over to the employee's sick leave balance. If an employee leaves anytime, after January 1, if you separate from the city, your vacation payout is the max accrual. You would have, it could be on January 2nd and you're going to get that 240 hours, but it's also the employee's current year accrual. So you'll see a lot of employees will wait. They'll, may leave on December 31st. They want to retire at the end of the month prior to January 1 because you're getting that current year's accruals paid out on your final paycheck versus waiting until January 1st. So for a 20-year, so if you've been here, 20 plus years and you're earning 24 days, for a 40-hour employee, that could add another 192 hours to your final paycheck, or 576 hours for a fire employee. Expansion of our language incentive program. So as I mentioned, this is not formally adopted in the council personnel resolution, but that was some feedback that we've heard from employees. We've done some work internally through our HR department, our human resources department and human relations department to expand that program. It's currently only offered for employees that speak Spanish. So the recommendation is to expand that beyond just Spanish. Consistent with the current policy, there still has to be a business need for that, either the department or the organization, for an employee to receive that language stipend. We're also proposing to increase that stipend from $1,104 per year to $1,500 a year that is paid out monthly. And then we're proposing to expand eligibility to part-time employees, not our seasonal or temporary employees, but right now that's only available to full-time employees, but you could be I'm going to air quote, a permanent part-time that may have a business need. So we're recommending to expand that program to those part-time employees as well. So staff recommendations, or apologies, that font is pretty hard to read. It's pretty small up there. But no change from our recommendations regarding accruals from the last committee meeting. So we're recommending that the sick and vacation accrual rates for those 56-hour fire employees be on par with other city employees based on the annual hours worked. At the last meeting, we also talked about, and I had some slides that showed salaries and how they compared to market at the firefighter level. A lot of the feedback we heard from fire was that recognizing, yes, there's a gap at that firefighter level, but that gap increases as you move through the ranks. So that gap is actually higher than, it was like 4 to 7% at the firefighter. That increases compared to other departments when you hit the engineer, captain, battalion chief. That is something that we want to assess, not only the pay grade, if there's any pay grade adjustments needed for fire, but other city employees as well, as part of a mid-year budget update. The current budget that is going to be presented to you all next week was not presented with any significant pay grade adjustments. For our citywide vacation accruals, we're not recommending any changes to our tiered accrual. I went too fast. Hold on. You know what? I forgot to talk about, I clicked through too quickly. So we did that vacation accrual comparison to other cities, and with the exception of our employees in their first year, that's earning about 2 days a year less in vacation, all of our other kind of accrual tiers were for the most part on par with the other organizations. We're not recommending any changes to those accrual rates at this time, because in starting some analysis of holiday accruals, we receive one additional holiday compared to other organizations. Most places are getting 13 holidays. We have 14, one of which is a floating holiday that you can use essentially like vacation anytime. So we're not recommending any changes to those current tiered accrual rates. As I mentioned, proposed changes to the language incentive program. And then at the last meeting, I mentioned that we wanted to look at the holiday accruals as well. That is a much more complex analysis that I said the same thing last month and thought we'd have time to really dive into that prior to this meeting for recommendations, but that is going to take some more detailed analysis. So the recommendations to come back at a future time with more detailed analysis on any proposed changes to holiday accruals. So next steps, we have committee of the whole. There's not a general government committee in June, so we would come back to committee of the whole with proposed language changes to the personnel resolution that reflect these staff recommendations. Council would hear that as the committee of the whole on the 9th. That would be presented to the council for formal adoption on June 16th at that last meeting in June, with an proposed effective date of July 1. And then, as I mentioned, kind of a future analysis and discussion of the citywide vacation accruals.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councilmember Joyner, then Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you so much. You're right, there's a lot of numbers. So I have a couple of questions, and I want to kind of ask it a different way if I could. If I work 40 hours a week, and I got a stomach bug, and I need to take a day off, how many hours does it take to take a day off? I'm a 40-hour work employee.
That would depend. We have employees that are on a 40-hour work week that work either, an 8-hour, Monday through Friday, 8. It could be someone on a 10-hour shift, or it could be someone on a 12-hour shift. So that would, if they were on a 12-hour shift, then they would take 12 hours.
12 hours, okay. If I am a firefighter and I still got that same stomach bug and I need to take one day off, how many hours does that take?
24.
Okay. So it takes me 30 days as a 40-hour work employee to get 8 hours to take a day off on average. But it takes me 9 weeks to get 1 day off if I got a stomach bug.
Yes, it would be 2.5, not 2.5, just over 2 months.
Yeah. So in essence, one would get 12 days in general, and one would get just over 6 days within a calendar year. Is that correct?
Sorry, I was writing.
A day is a day.
Repeat that again.
A firefighter would be able to get 6 days, sick days off. 6 sick days off in a calendar year.
I think
that's a tongue twister.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying. So I think, sorry, Pat, were you getting ready to say something and I cut you off? Okay. And I think that's where our language of days, and I've been meeting with employees, I keep air quoting days, because our policies do talk about days, but our recommendation is that if I'm accruing 8 hours per day, that a firefighter, fire employee would accrue 11.2 hours per day. Some of the feedback we heard from fire was that some other cities, if they take a day off, they don't have to take 24 hours. Greensboro was an example given. We haven't heard back from, I think there's 2 departments that we haven't heard back from, but from the ones that we have, Greensboro and High Point have allow employees to take off 16 hours, but every other department that we heard from takes 24 hours. And one city in particular, and I can't remember which one, but their policy language literally said 2 12-hour days for fire to take off one shift.
Thank you.
Just to be clear for council, we don't accrue on days, we accrue on hours. So all of our accrual rates are based on hours, not on days. So even though days is used as a stand-in to explain the accrual rate to many employees that understand that better, that is not the actual way that we accrue pay. The other example that you were alluding to, that's a little bit of a misnomer. If you are a 40-hour a week, 8 hours a day employee, you work 260 shifts a year. If you are a 24-hour employee, you work 121 shifts per year. So when we talk about a day, sicknesses typically are not one day. If you have to go to a doctor's appointment, you're taking off a short period of time. But many people are using their sick leave when they are really sick. And so it takes multiple, you could be off multiple days. So it's while I understand the argument that is being made by the fire department, it is not an apples to apples comparison to talk about days or shifts of taking a shift off. A firefighter actually could take part of a shift off as well. But typically, if you're sick, you're going to be sick for a full shift.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Scipio, and then Councilmember Bowie.
I think this, for me, I would like to see what is the actual per hour rate. That doesn't matter whether it's 10 hours, 12, 24, or 56. what would be the right rate per hour that we need to be dealing with? So that gives equity across the board.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Do you, when you say rate per hour, do you mean accruals per pay period?
If you're gonna, whichever way gets everybody at the same rate measurement. If you want to do it per pay period, X number of days, whatever that is. But that's, to me, would be the fair way to do it. So for instance, if that rate is, for every hour you work, you earn 0.015 days for sick or vacation, whatever it is. That would be regardless of how many hours, it gets equivalent across the board. That's to me, seems fair. But that's one issue. But my other question is, if this goes into effect, if we vote on it in June 16th, what happens to the already received sick leaves and vacations that people have? It's not retroactive. Do we start where they are and move forward with a new rate?
We are still finalizing that. So, and that was also based on some feedback provided from fire. So we are still working with legal to figure out kind of what that looks like. I want to go,
Let me add one point to that.
Yeah.
Chairman,
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but, you know, people are talking, you're having your discussion, the chair doesn't get to recognize you. Please, let's be respectful of Robert's rules. If you want to speak, please raise your hand so I can acknowledge you. And if there's someone that wants to respond, please, you are at the cubicle, so you basically running the discussion, which is fine, because you're the subject matter expertise. But I need everybody to be in order. No disrespect. Let's just do it the right way. Go ahead.
I had pulled in, to answer your question, Councilmember Scipio, the slides that I presented last time. And that was our proposal, was based on kind of looking at that. We accrue based on hours per pay period. And to make, this is just the example for sick, but to make that consistent for the percent of annual hours worked. So for a 40-hour employee, our annual amount of sick hours is 4.6% of our annual hours worked of 2,080. So the proposal was for fire to earn 134 hours of sick leave per year, which is that same percent. And then, as the manager mentioned, we actually accrue time based on X number of hours per pay period. So that would be the adjustment for fire. So if I earn 3.69 hours per pay period, then the proposal was that fire would earn 5.17 to keep that, still more, but to keep that percent of annual hours consistent.
Okay. Councilmember Bowen, and then Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Tim, and I apologize, I jumped the gun earlier. My question is, one of the concerns I've heard from the firefighters is the inability to work for any kind of injury that may take place off of work hours. So if you are physically unable to work due to injury and have to use your sick leave or your vacation leave, you use the term apples to apples. It's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges, because if I hurt myself, I can go back to work and sit at a desk. If they hurt themselves, they can't get on a truck. So how can we justify that?
Assistant City Manager, do you have a comment, or Manager Pate?
I was writing. If he had his hand up, he can.
I mean, you don't have to know it in totality, but can that be addressed?
Well, I'll provide a brief answer to that one is, that yes, there are differences in different jobs that people have, but there are a tremendous number of jobs in the city where if you are hurt, you cannot drive a vehicle if you are hurt. You cannot you cannot work on a sanitation truck if you are hurt. You cannot be out in the field with utility crews if you are hurt. We have many jobs that have requirements that you be able to do those jobs, or you are not eligible to come back. We also try to do a lot of light duty work for individuals that are mentally able to do a job but not physically able to do a job for some reason. But there are a lot of jobs that have various issues like that create the same situation that you're talking about.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. ACM Voida, thank you I will wrap my head around all these numbers, but I do want to take the opportunity to thank you for coming back and being able to provide information to the questions that I did ask during your presentation at the last committee meeting, particularly around the expansion of the language incentive program. Just one quick question of clarity. It mentions about expanding, I think the current language incentive right now may just be Spanish. And I feel like you may have mentioned that there were about 11 of the top languages that were spoken in Forsyth County. Is that possibly something that you all are thinking about with this expansion to go along with those same languages, or is that what you all are still trying to examine or explore?
So we worked with the Human Relations Department, and they issued a language access plan report in 2024. And in conversation with them, there were some updates that just even based on kind of changes in demographics that they're seeing even within the last year since that report was issued, that they have recommendations on, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Spanish, Polish, Mongolian, Mandarin Chinese, French, Wolof, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Tagalog, I think I'm saying that correctly. Those were the primary languages that they identified, and then also identified some others that may have a need, Arabic, Dari, Farsi, Pashto, and Swahili. So we worked with Human Relations on that.
Okay, one other question. And so the 1,500 that you all are proposing to increase it from 1,104 to 1,500 a year, then each month, or each payday of the month, then it will all be to the maximum amount at the end of year of $1,500.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could, would be I believe prorated for those part-time employees. Mm-hmm. So prorated accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Again, this is for information. And as you can see, as next steps in your attachment, this will be coming to the committee of the whole on June the 9th. Is that not correct, Mr. Pate?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for all of the information. Thank you for trying to break it down in bite-sized pieces so everybody can understand this at the same level. I'm sure there'll be more questions as we go forward, and I'm sure Council Committee, if you have any questions that you would like the Assistant City Manager to answer, please reach out to her so that she can provide that understanding of information to you. The clerk, next item, please.
Item G5, ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 2 of the Winston-Salem Code of Ordinances entitled City Council.
Attorney French.
So good afternoon, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, committee members, members of the council. This item comes to you just to do some adjustments in a couple of different ways. One, to make some ordinance adjustments to align with what the council is currently doing. Some are that you heard at the strategic planning session that we had back in January at Tanglewood, and others that will then align with what we hope to bring to you in the next couple of weeks with respect to proposed rules of procedures that will be taken directly from this ordinance amendment. You will see, as reflected in the details, I don't want to go through all of them today, this is quite a few. Some of them are just indicating time differences, electronic dissemination of information that we have not done in the past that we are currently doing for citizens, those types of things. So, you know, if you have had an opportunity to see and look at those, you will see that a lot of these are changes that we have needed to do for some time. And one of those other proposals is to change the name of this committee to general government, and that is reflected in the ordinance amendment as well. And so I'll just stop there and see if you all have questions.
Attorney French, could you just go through the edits that have been highlighted or underlined? If you could just go through those, because it's a lot of pages, but it's really not that many adjustments or additions or whatever.
Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to do that. Now I finally got my microphone to work. So if you will look at the first page there, you see that we are adding language. So let me just make sure everybody understands. If it's stricken through, that is ordinance language that we are removing. If it is underlined, that is ordinance language that we are adding and amending for the ordinance, okay? So if you'll see in section 2-31, it indicates council member. We are adding that. 2-33, regular and special and emergency meetings. We indicated that instead of a city holiday, it should be a legal holiday because that's how we define them in our city policies and handbook. And we indicated that the city council will schedule the meeting for the following Tuesday after a holiday, as opposed to the next succeeding business day, which is not your current practice. In B, the city council may schedule, we're adding this, special meetings as it deems necessary with dates and times adopted as part of the annual calendar or in accordance with all legal requirements. We're adding that language. If you go to the next section, F, under that same section, scheduling meetings, amendments to the schedule shall be adopted at least 7 days before the first meeting is held, and that is pursuant to the revised schedule that you will have already adopted. Okay, the clerk will notify you of the time and place designated in the purpose of the special or emergency meetings. They shall be added to the city calendar, and the clerk will notify local press. And as you see, we will keep such amended schedule at least 7 days before the first meeting. We struck that language and made it a little bit more detailed in there. Going down to G1, talking about the special meetings. We updated that to say no business shall be transacted at a special meeting, but that for which it shall be called, unless all council members are present or have signed a written waiver of notice. That is in keeping with our statute. So we wanted to make sure that that was accurately reflected in the ordinance. Going over, we struck item 6, what is that? G6. Each public body shall charge the $10. I don't believe we're doing that, so we struck that from the ordinance. Procedures for emergency meetings. We are not notifying people by phone, so we remove that. It is electronic notice, and that shall be provided as opposed to just given, okay? So just some minor language there. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. If you go back up, I apologize. G3, okay? Written notice of special meetings. We wanted to make that clear, that not just such meetings, special meetings. And then just below that in item number 5, further notice of special meetings shall be posted and electronically delivered, because that is what we're doing as opposed to mailing, okay? We already covered H1, electronic, well, no, we're going to H1, electronic notice shall be provided. And then we're moving on to section 2, let's see, nothing there. Jamie, are you with me? Advancing to 2-34. And that is titled Mayor to be the presiding officer, and presiding officer in the absence of the mayor and the sergeant at arms. That's that section there. And if you look at B, this is where we begin designating the change of name from Community Development Housing General Government to just General Government. And you will see that throughout the document. Under section 2-35, we wanted to make sure that our presiding officer language was neutral. And so here we have taken out some of our pronouns and put in some designations there so that it is clear. Going then to section 2-38, rules of order. Unless otherwise provided, we struck in this article, the deliberations of the city council shall be governed by Robert's rules. And then we went into just distinguishing about public hearing, newspaper advertisements, as well as the presiding officer asking if anyone would like to speak and ask the issues to be presented for consideration, ask the city council if they have any questions. Those two pieces added under 2-38A. And then if you skip down to 2-38D, the public hearing shall be closed prior to final action being taken on the item. The public hearing may be closed or left open if the item is to be continued to a subsequently scheduled council meeting. You all are currently doing that. That was not a part of the ordinance. We wanted to have that added as the language that you would have there. We'll now skip to section 2-381, public comment period. Going to item D, the mayor and council will not respond to comments made during the public comment period, but may, where appropriate, provide comments at a later time. Section 2-39, we just added under A, the state of North Carolina, just be a little bit more specific there. Under item C in that same section, if you look down towards the bottom, we added condemnation orders and any item believed to be routine in nature when we were talking about what can be on the consent agenda. Such items shall be approved, adopted, accepted on a single motion, again, what you currently do, unless you pull an item from the consent agenda, correct? And then we struck that if any citizen wishes to be heard on any consent agenda item, he may request that they remove the item. That is not our current practice. You all remove items from the consent agenda and you deliberate on those, but of course, persons may always come and speak on anything during the public comment period. D, the item will be placed on the general business agenda and considered separately after adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Of course, that is currently your current practice. Going down to section 2-40, item A, you will see that we have changed this rule from 36 hours to 48 hours notice, and you will see that throughout the document. And when we can waive that, unanimous consent for consideration, again, putting the 48 hours notice in there so that people won't have enough notice, and then saying that same section, without 48 hours notice unless by the unanimous consent of those present, but such ordinance or resolution shall be placed upon the agenda. That is something that we must do. We must place it on the very next agenda for the next meeting. So instead of being acted upon, we place it on the agenda because we don't know what action you may take. Okay? Going on then to section 2-42, standing committees designated, composition and voting. If you look at 2-42A2, again, renaming the committee to general government. And then further over, 2-43B, under the Finance Committee, we're adding some language and taking away there. Finance Committee shall be the advisory committee to the council for all activities related to finance. And then we just struck some language to make it a little clearer, such as the financial status of the city, financial reports presented to the city council, and the annual budget as submitted by the city manager. And we struck the rest of that language just to simplify. C, public safety, advisory committee to the council for all activities related to public safety, such as fire, police, emergency management, and traffic matters, including the regulation of cabs and buses we took out. Okay? I know I'm moving quickly. Stop me if you have any questions. The next section would be D, public works. Again, it's just language here, handled by, was changed to related to public works. And then we added transit operations to that, as well as fleet management, because that has come online since this ordinance was created. Again, C, changing to general government committee, as we stated previously. And we listed neighborhood services, community development, and housing as a part of that committee because that is where those deliberations are made. And again, 2 is just, again, a name change. Those are all of the changes that we have. Do you all have any questions?
Thank you, Attorney French.
You're welcome.
Again, council committee, please review these before our meetings next week. If you have any comments or questions, reach out to Attorney French. We are, resolution, vote. May I have a motion on the floor, please? Councilmember Burke, can I get the motion on the floor and then we have discussion? Okay, can I get a motion on the floor? Councilmember Hall.
I need to get you to record.
Okay. Councilmember Hall.
I move to approve.
It's been moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded by Councilmember Hall and Councilmember Joyner. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
All those, we're voting, I forgot, this is.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, did she have?
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion, Councilmember Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just have one question. We received a notice from the clerk after 1 today to check our iPads because some information had been added. This was not here initially, so this was just added today?
G6.
Okay. It's a lot. Thank you.
All those in favor, please let it be known by voting electronically. All those opposed. There it is. The motion passes 3-1. No. Next item, please, from the clerk.
Item G6, adoption of a resolution of the Winston-Salem City Council opposing House Bill 765, Save the American Dream Act.
Attorney French is going to run with this one, and some others may chime in. Just so I can be clear and transparent, I basically asked staff that we represent the citizens of Winston-Salem. And when things are going on in whatever area of government that we are represented in, and if part of our job, like we tell our citizens to be engaged, to be on top of what's going on, I think that some of the bills that are being passed, particularly at the state level and the federal level, we need to be engaged and make a conscious effort to have our citizens' voices heard through us. So they will go ahead and read this. I'm hoping that you'll support it. Attorney French.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and good afternoon again. We're going to do like a really high-level overview of this bill. This is highlighting aspects of House Bill 765, titled the American Dream Act. There are some serious zoning and rezoning impacts on the local level that seriously restrict functionality of many of our city operations and daily functions. And so one of the things that we are most concerned about, and we are aligned in this with several municipalities from around the state, as well as the North Carolina League of Municipalities, who are very concerned about the aspects of the bill as it was originally drafted. One train of thought is that some of the provisions in this bill will provide less restrictions and or remove barriers to housing in our communities. But that's not necessarily proving to bear itself out if you look at the provisions of the bill itself and the way that the bill was, again, originally crafted. And so when we read through this bill, we looked at it, we immediately had concerns. We reached out to staff, in particular our planning department, to get feedback with respect to some of the highlights and concerns that we felt would directly impact the city of Winston-Salem. I will not go into all of them today because there are several, and I want to thank the departments that weighed in because they provided a very great overview of how the city of Winston-Salem can be impacted. However, I do want to highlight a few of those concerns today just so you can understand some of the impacts it would have on us. There is a personal liability provision that would render members of council personally liable for some of the decisions made if this bill were to pass. Cities would actually no longer be able to necessarily classify zoning districts based on a minimum lot size, which is something that we currently do. There has been a presentation of an unrealistic shot clock, which would drastically reduce rezoning decisions from currently 120 days to 90 days. And I believe that I'm looking around, I'm getting nods and good eyebrows, and that I believe that our current practice of a 180-day review is something that is modeled throughout the state and is, again, a standard that we have set. There are some sidewalk restriction languages in here as well. Now, just this past Friday, we were alerted that because of the pushback from other municipalities and concerns from representatives around the state, that there has been a stop of pushing the bill forward as it currently is drafted. We have been asked to really push our agenda with respect to the parts of the bill that would impact us negatively. There are some parts of the bill that we feel that we could probably live with and work with. And I will say that it seems that there are people on both sides of the aisle that have concerns about the bill as it was originally drafted. Our goal here is to make sure that we are pushing back on those provisions that have not been changed and that we would need to do a little bit more digging and working with our representatives up in Raleigh. But again, just this past Friday, we were alerted that some of the provisions of the bill, due to those efforts, have now been adjusted and removed. And that is a good thing, because that means that the work that we are doing in these spaces is making an impact. And again, many municipalities across the state have pushed back against this, including the city of Greensboro. I don't know if you've seen that they also have passed a resolution not in favor of this. So the resolution that you have in front of you is just to say that we do not agree with the provisions that negatively impact the city, asking the council to adopt that as a resolution, but not totally closing the door on working with those who are willing to work with us to make sure that those provisions and concerns that we have are properly addressed. I will say that there's probably some people in the room that know a little more than I about zoning and rezoning. And if you have any questions about the particulars of the bill itself, I would defer to them. But the strategy here from the legal standpoint is to allow council to weigh in on those provisions and just make a stand to let other municipalities as well as our folks in Raleigh know where we stand on these issues.
Thank you, Attorney French. Assistant Manager King, do you have anything you want to say, or Director Murphy, you got anything? These are go-to experts, people on planning and zoning.
I'll be brief. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Camille covered the waterfront pretty well right there. She's dead on. There's some shot clock provisions. There's some sidewalk provisions in there that are troublesome. A lot of things that kind of hamper our ability to deal with things that are local. And I think, as the council knows, a lot of rezoning decisions are the most local things there are in government, and it strips away some of our ability here locally to deal with those. So I won't belabor the points that Camille hit. There are some things that have been taken out since that initial memo was prepared that is in your packet. So things are trending in a better direction, but still some things in there that I think it would be helpful for us to try to work to negotiate and to try to get some better traction on getting removed to get this bill into a better place.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Lanier Wright.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We can hear you.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to highlight that they have asked us to North Carolina legal municipalities have asked that we focus our attention on the House Finance Committee, and Amber Baker, our representative, is a member of that committee. So we'll continue to push this lobbying effort forward as we learn the other things, that have been taken out, and have conversations around House Bill 765. So I didn't want to announce the member that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think we're on the right track. There has been some changes that folks have been hearing around the state. I think it's important that we go ahead and put our kind of place in the sand, so to speak, because I want folks to interpret the fact that there's been some changes that we were okay with.
Right.
I think we need to go ahead and draw a line in the sand.
Thank you. Any other comment? Again, with all of what's going on in Raleigh and DC, I want to commend staff for keeping the pace, as I said in my email, trying to keep up. I know it's not easy. We know it's not easy. But when some of us see certain things come across the wire, like they're coming, and you receive emails from council, where do we stand on this? As I've talked with Assistant City Manager Lanier Wright, Lanier, I gotta remember that. She's like, they got 2-3 names, I ain't mad at it. Anyway, Margie and Jack only gave you 1 and 2, and they didn't believe in middle names either. Anyway, my parents. I think it's important, again, our citizens are looking for us to do our job. And doing our job means we now gotta be attentive to everything that's going on, because ultimately it's gonna impact our staff, our employees, the city, the citizens, everybody. And if we are not actively discussing, engaging city manager, assistant managers, our attorney, our lobbyists, then what good are we? All I know is, I know it's a lot to keep up. I know it's a lot to read in the agenda packages, but this is my clarion call again as always. Please, try to keep up. If you can't, call these guys. Tell them to break it down. Send you just a, what did I ask for? And what did I ask for? I don't need to know 20, 30 pages of stuff. That's you guys. I need you to send me, what is the problem? What is the issue? How do we know it? Impact, pros and cons. That's all I need. And if it is something that we need to, if it doesn't impact us, fine, say that. We keep it moving. But right now, again, I applaud you guys for following up on this. I knew you knew about it, but you knew I was talking about it. That going forward, we have got to have a voice, just like we do when we vote on resolutions and issues in our city. We now have to have a voice in some of these bills that are coming through that are detrimental to us being able to do our job, our staff doing their job, and our citizens getting the quality of services and resources that we need for them to have to live their life. And staff, you know what I said to you, you gotta keep us up, you gotta keep up, because we're not reading and we're not in the loop with everything that you all know. But we depend on you. Put somebody over here to study it so they can come back to you and give us the bite side piece of it with also the long side piece of it for those of us that want to deep dive into it. But again, I thank you. I think we're on the right track. The fact, Mayor, that they slowed this puppy down, that tells you what kind of impact that even Winston had. And I'm not calling out any of our representatives, but we know that one of ours is a sponsor. And we need to let them know when we don't like something, or and the why. And that's why our staff went through it with a fine-tooth comb. This is good, this is bad. Well, we might can live with this. This is good, this is bad. That's what we need. And we need to be able to communicate that to our citizens as well. So with that, are there any more questions or comments or for the order of the day? I need a motion. I got on the soapbox quick, didn't I?
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion.
So I got a first and a second from Councilmember Joyner and Councilmember Burke. All those in favor, please vote electronically. All those opposed, please vote like sign.
Just for the record, can we get Councilmember Joyner to state what your motion is? What are you asking for them to vote for?
The adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 and 6.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution for 25-0185, opposing House Bill 765.
You're welcome. And the motion passed. Thank you all so much. Meeting is adjourned.